Breaking news from the Middle East. The tensions have flared once again on the Israeli-Lebanese border, with Hezbollah and Israeli military exchanging fire just hours ago. Hezbollah says it has completed the first phase of its attack, striking 11 military targets and Israel's Iron Dome platform with over 300 rockets. The Lebanon-based group said the attacks were in retaliation for the killing of its top commander last month. The Israeli military says it conducted preemptive strikes this morning. Israel is now in the midst of a 48-hour home front emergency. Now, for more on the situation, let's cross live to our correspondent Jonathan Regev in Tel Aviv. Jonathan, bring us up to date on the impact the Hezbollah attack caused on Israel.
The impact, of course, of that attack, as you mentioned, Israel is now in a 48-hour home front change of orders. It is especially notable on the northern part of Israel, the northern border and northern cities, where the instructions are very much different from every day, meaning people are instructed in most places to stay close to protected areas, protected shelters. And also in central Israel, there have been some changes. No very big outdoor gatherings are allowed for the coming 48 hours. It will have an effect for sure. We are in Tel Aviv. Still, the streets there's public transport, there's buses, people outside. I think the streets are perhaps not as full as they would usually be on a Sunday in late August, but some effect still. In central Israel, I would call it as a tense, quiet understanding that something big might happen. This is the feeling here, clearly an effect already from this latest escalation.
Well, Jonathan, we heard that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held an early morning cabinet meeting. The IDF also launched airstrikes inside Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah positions. Now, you just mentioned something big is going to happen. Tell us more on all those developments in Israel.
So what has happened is that Israel had intelligence that Hezbollah is planning a major attack at 5 a.m. local time. That's 4 hours ago. Israeli military officials were speaking of a planned attack by 6,000 rockets and drones, mostly to northern Israel, but some of them also aiming at installations and at army bases and perhaps strategic installations in central Israel. And 30 minutes before 5 a.m., based on that intelligence, Israel launched a major airstrike inside Lebanon. We're speaking of some 100 jets attacking simultaneously. And according to Israeli sources, all of the launchers that were aiming at central Israel were destroyed before they were able to launch even one missile. Israeli officials speak of thousands and thousands of Hezbollah rockets and launchers that were destroyed in this attack. This according to Israel. Hezbollah did manage to fire some 300 rockets, maybe even a little bit more, towards communities in northern Israel. As for the moment, no attacks have reached central Israel. It doesn't mean that it cannot happen later on during the day or in the coming days, but based on that intelligence, at 4:30 a.m. local time, that is 4.5 hours ago, a major strike of Israeli jets, and according to Israeli military officials, destroying thousands and thousands of Hezbollah targets.
Well, Jonathan, the IDF has already warned residents of areas in southern Lebanon where Hezbollah operates to leave immediately. Will Israel carry more attacks into Hezbollah targets on Lebanese territory?
It might happen, and of course what usually happens in these cases is that there's an attack and a counterattack. For the moment, Israel is waiting to see how Hezbollah reacts to that major, massive Israeli attack inside Lebanon for the moment. And I'm stressing it again, just for the moment, because things may change at any minute. But for the moment, Hezbollah has been able to attack only in northern Israel, pretty much in the communities that it has been doing so for 10.5 months. No Hezbollah attacks were recorded in central Israel. Again, according to Israeli officials, this is due to the successful strike by Israeli jets. If there is a major retaliation from Hezbollah, then yes, there will be a counter-retaliation from Israel in southern Lebanon, and even perhaps further inside Lebanon, even in Beirut or so. It depends on what we see from Lebanon, attacks and counterattacks. There's a great level of preparedness in Israel. I think even a much bigger level of preparedness as far as the residents are concerned in Lebanon, understanding that major attacks may come.
Now, in the context of the latest Hezbollah attacks, Jonathan, Israel says it will strike anywhere where there is a threat. Tell us more about the regional response to this.
There's still, it's quite early, so we've not heard a lot of regional response. An interesting development, though, with regional implications is this: an Israeli delegation will make its way to Cairo, to Egypt today, for negotiations regarding the agreement with Gaza. We know that Hezbollah and Iran, especially Iran, said that it will not strike at Israel, that those are retaliatory strikes for the killing of Fuad Shukr in Lebanon and the killing attributed to Israel of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Iran at least said it will not do it as long as it thinks that there are still chances for the negotiations to succeed. Now we know that Hezbollah did attack and even planned a much bigger attack than it actually carried out. Still, a delegation is making its way to Cairo, meaning the situation on the northern border has escalated dramatically, but the negotiations still continue. As far as the Hezbollah supporters, they're hailing the Hezbollah response, saying, look, Hezbollah fired more than 300 rockets at northern Israel. This is a proper response. Hezbollah's opponents inside Lebanon and in the Arab world saying that Hezbollah plans for something much, much bigger, and that attack was mostly thwarted.
Thank you very much. Our correspondent Jonathan Ragiv in Tel Aviv.